Katie de Haberman would like to request to end the policy of water fluoridation. Here we go. Okay.
Happy New Year, Council. I'd like to start this new year off by ending a bad public policy. Arsenic and lead are highly toxic, but are both added to the water by the government of the city of Raleigh. Understanding that a 1956 referendum is the basis for this council's introduction of hazardous toxic waste products like fluoride to the water, when was the referendum voted upon that granted the council the power to add persistent, bioaccumulative, toxic chemicals like arsenic and lead to our water supply? As over many months, I have seen that this council is opposed to spending any time discussing the adverse effects of these policies. I expect at least the legal justification for these policies hopefully can be addressed tonight. Lead and arsenic are highly poisonous. Lead and arsenic poisoning typically result from ingestion of contaminated food or water. These are persistent bioaccumulative toxic chemicals, or PBTs. Persistent is defined as having features that allow them to resist environmental degradation like photodissociation. Bioaccumulative chemicals are defined as chemicals that accumulate in tissues of living organisms in ever-increasing concentrations. Toxicity is defined as having any of the adverse array of health effects. The EPA lists many health problems caused by lead, like interference with the formation of red blood cells, anemia, kidney damage, impaired reproduction function, impaired cognitive performance, delayed neurological and physiological developments, increased blood pressure. The agency also suggests that lead may be carcinogenic, also causing kidney tumors and types of leukemia. Arsenic is notoriously toxic to multicellular life, even in concentrations as low as 0.17 parts per billion. It is certainly a good practice to avoid ingesting arsenic and lead, yet this council adds it to the water and ensures that lead is also leached from brass joints in the water pipes as a result of water fluoridation. The bottom line here, folks, is chemistry. The highly reactive fluorides you add to the water combine with the persistent bioaccumulative toxins you add or that are leached into the water, creating a toxic cocktail by the time it reaches the tap of the consumer. I have not been able to find a record of a referendum granting the council the power to expose the population to graduated levels of PBTs like lead and arsenic. Please help me understand the basis for elevating my risk to the exposure of PBTs. And finally, City Attorney McCormick, when was the referendum voted upon that granted the council the power to add persistent bioaccumulative toxic chemicals like lead and arsenic to the water supply?
Ms. Haberman, your time is up. We appreciate you bringing this to our attention again. You did not give your address. Would you mind giving it again so the clerk could have it?
I live on Cedar Rail Road, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Marcus Hill.
Happy New Year, everybody. Adding the hazardous toxic waste of products of PCS Phosphate Incorporated.
Would you mind giving your address again?
Marcus, that's Cedar Railroad in Raleigh, North Carolina. But adding the hazardous toxic waste products of PCS Phosphate has been defended by this council for many months. The financial expense is about $173,000 just for the toxic waste, but that doesn't include the cost of maintenance for the equipment that's used to add or is affected by highly corrosive acids like hexafluorosilicic acid. The cost is not simply measured in the financial contracts this council enters into with various corporations at the expense of the public health and regardless of peer-reviewed science and verifiable fact. The cost is measured in terms of diminished mental capacity and adverse health effects. Of course, in order to bring the level of arsenic, lead, and sodium fluoride within the government's prescribed limits, the City of Raleigh must undertake the cost of filtering out the toxins we're paying to add. So it sounds like somebody has a pretty nice cash cow here in the city of Raleigh. You buy the poison, add the poison, maintain the equipment, filter out the poison, sell the poisoned water, buy the poison, add the poison, and so on. Who benefits from this practice? Just so we're on the same page, there are numerous patents for fluorides used as insecticides and rat poison, including the chemical compound Raleigh adds to its water. Hexafluorosilicic acid is an active component in many rat poisons and insecticides. It's hard to get a patent for rat poison if the compound doesn't cause harm to mammals. As you've been made aware, the University of North Carolina recently concluded that hexafluorosilicic acid leaches lead from brass joints and water pipes. Some of the lead this council adds to the water is filtered out, but none of the lead this council guarantees is leached from the brass joints and the pipes through fluoridation is even acknowledged by those of you who would enthusiastically voice their support, like Councilors Baldwin and Odom, in support of adding hazardous toxic waste to the water at our last meeting. Thurmont, Maryland, the location of Camp David, had a city council in 1994 that granted a temporary ban on water fluoridation, yielding some interesting findings. After just 6 months without fluoridation, lead levels in Thurmont dropped 78%. That ban is now permanent. A letter from C.R. Myrick, the Water Quality Coordinator of Tacoma Public Utilities, to the Washington State Department of Health in December of 1992 says, "It is interesting to note the 90th percentile lead concentration was 17 parts per billion this time, compared to 32 parts per billion last time. We have not been using fluoride since the drought this summer," end quote. Fluoride was held responsible for the high lead level in Tacoma, Washington. Water treatment with silicofluorides and lead toxicity was published in the International Journal of Environmental Studies and was a survey of over 280,000 Massachusetts children, comparing a matched group in 30 towns that did fluoridate with a matched group in 30 towns that did not fluoridate. And the comparison showed when silicofluorides were present in the water, the children were more than twice as likely to suffer from blood lead levels above 10 micrograms per deciliter, the danger level. The correlation with blood lead levels is especially serious because lead poisoning is associated with higher rates of learning disabilities, hyperactivity, substance abuse, and crime. It seems to me that the crime starts at the source, before the tap. With those like this council who would enthusiastically elevate the risk of exposure to persistent bioaccumulative toxins like lead, arsenic, and fluorides, and I ask the practice cease and desist.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr.
Excuse me. Sure.